want to show you guys something. Because this is fucking funny. Bear with me 2 seconds. I meant to show it I meant to show it earlier. But of course I wanted to talk about more important things than this. But we have the current numbers for Marathon. Do you guys want to see how Marathon is doing? We're going to probably watch a video a little bit later about it. But do you guys want to see how Marathon is doing today? Yeah, this is the current chart for Marathon. Current player right now is 67,000 players, down over 20,000 from its all-time peak. It actually dropped down to 31,000 earlier today. It actually dropped down to 31,000 earlier today. It's gone back up, but it's only at 67. It still did not get back up to its all-time peak. And this is 24 hours into launch. Is it better than worse? Let's see. Let's see if we can still get Highguard. And the all-time peak was 97,000. But wait, Highguard peaked opening day and then immediately crashed. It's not really a fair comparison. But this one, the all-time peak, like Highguard's all-time peak was 97. So Marathon actually
tried Marathon yesterday. She could not play more than a few rounds before returning it.
I don't doubt it. Ninja quit, like everybody's quit Marathon. Marathon has less all-time peak than Highguard. Highguard actually had 10,000 more at its peak than Marathon has. That's how bad this is. Like, this is the 48-hour numbers. Look at it. It started here, crashed. It's inching its way back up, but you can see it's starting to trend downwards again. It is starting to trend downwards again. Now, the end-game Slay the Spire. Well, would you look at that? Would you look at that? 212.5 thousand players for this indie game of Slay the Spire 2. It peaked at 430 players. Look at that. Day one. Its day one peak was higher than anything Marathon has put out. Chat, we are getting our trifecta. We are on track to get our trifecta of Kanhaiga. We are going to get Kanhaiga. It may potentially last a little bit longer, but no, Concord 4 is going to be Horizons. If it's anything, Concord 4 will be Horizons. But yeah, I think we might just get our Kanhaiga. Oh my god. Actually, okay, for shits and giggles, just for shits and giggles, I think this should be the current one. Is this Odyssey? I'm not sure. Hang on. Is this the Odyssey? Elite. Okay, yeah, it is Elite Dangerous. So Elite Dangerous is currently sitting at about 5,000. So not exactly for comparison, but yeah. I just thought that was funny. I meant to pull up the chart earlier, but yeah, Marathon ain't doing too well. And we're gonna take a look. Rev put a video out about it that we will check out today. so we can point and laugh. I'm not going to delve into it. Yeah, there's a lot of speculation on it. No, I'd rather watch Rev's video about Marathon. Rev has put out a video like 2 hours ago about how Marathon is doing. And some of the shit that Bungie is trying to pull to make themselves not look so bad. Yes, that's the one we're gonna look. We're gonna look at Red's Marathon video so we can point and laugh. So let's dive in and take a look. I swear to God, this looks so bad. Like even this still shot. This looks okay. Even before I start the video, this right here exemplifies the problem with Marathon. I can't. They're too long, and I've seen them all already. This right here exemplifies the problem with Marathon. This is completely uninspired and ugly. So, what is this gun? This is the ugliest looking fucking gun that I've ever seen. This literally looks like a gun that you might make in like Minecraft. Legit. This is so plain and ugly. So even before we start the video, you can see just one reason why this freaking feels. Yeah, it looks like a Lego gun. You know what? That's exactly right. It looks like a Lego gun. It's ugly as shit. So now let us point and laugh.
Hey, what's up guys, Ruff here. So yesterday we got the official release of Bungie's Marathon, and the question on the minds of millions right now is whether or not this game is a flop. Did it fulfill the dreaded trilogy? Did it end up...
Which, as you guys may remember, I have coined as the Conheiden. Wait, is that what I said? Conheiden. Yeah, Conheiden.
Up like Concord with a absolute instantaneous failure, or Concord 2, aka Highguard, with a similar fate. Well, Concord 3, as some are suggesting, Marathon, well, we don't really know quite yet. Okay, the jury is not out on this, but right now, looking at the first 2 days and some of the reaction from Bungie and games journalists and players as well, suggests that things are not meeting the very high expectations that have been placed upon this title.
Yeah, because, like, I'm pretty sure Bungie threw a lot into this game. I am reasonably sure there was quite a bit hinging on this game for Bungie. They hyped the ever-living shit out of this, and I'm not sure how much money they put into it, but I think that the Bungie, the studio may have quite a bit riding on it. God knows how many hundreds of thousands of dollars has gone into it, including paying off the artist that they stole art from. Like, I'm not even sure how much they had to pay that artist within the agreement once they finally settled about the stolen art.
Now, of course,
yes, I almost forgot. It's how much did they sink into the development of this game? How much did they have to pay off the artists? How much are they paying quote-unquote influencers to shill the fuck out of this game? Like a certain Legne streamer that we know of? Or Legun? A certain Legun streamer that we know of? How much did they pay streamers to pimp this game? I have to imagine there is a great deal of money that went into this game that they're not gonna make back, probably.
That have been placed upon this title. Now, of course, we're off to a really bad start when not only are we seeing somewhat disappointing numbers, but also Bungie going out and heavily suggesting to media outlets that they wait on their reviews until late March, when just coincidentally, a major patch is coming up.
Wait. They don't want game journos to do a review of Marathon until it's been out for nearly a month? I legit don't think I have ever heard this before. legitimately, I do not think I have ever heard a game that was not reviewed until it was out for nearly a month. That is like unheard of to my knowledge. To ask them to wait that long to put in a review of it, especially what is considered a quote unquote AAA game. Like game outlets, the most I've ever seen is like a review embargo of like 24 hours after launch, maybe 48 hours. That I think is the most I've ever heard when it comes to any review embargoes. 24, maybe 48 hours at the most. A month? That's insane. That is so Bungie knows that it's a shit game. This is Bungie knowing that their game is dog shit. And it's why they're asking reviewers, please don't say anything for a month until we can fix our dog shit game. Which, again, there's nothing they're going to be able to do to fix this. And by the way, they're also forgetting that nobody gives a flying fuck what game journos say anymore. Every gamer doesn't look at the game journals. They look at the YouTubers. They look at the streamers. They're the ones that they get the review of the game from. So you've got people like Ninja, who is one of the biggest gamers in the world. People are going to look to him. Hey, how does he like this game? He quit. Ninja said, fuck this shit, I'm out. Leaflet played it. She's not like a big game reviewer, like, in the same area as Ninja or anything. Leaflet literally quit and refunded it. I have to wonder how many other people are refunding this game. They're fucked. All of this is adding up to, Marathon's only been out for about 24 hours, but the fact that major influencers are dropping this thing like it's hot and even refunding it. They're asking game journals to delay reviewing it for an entire fucking month. And the player counts are already dropping substantially. Yeah, this game's fucked. This game is absolutely fucked.
And then we see games journalists coming out and saying, this is not exactly the numbers they were expecting, and the player count is a bit concerning. You know it's a bit concerning when even games journalists are...
He's already dead!
Even Joe refunded it? Oh, so I'm guessing Joe is not going to be doing a review of Marathon then. Because I was kind of curious what his review is going to be, but if Joe refunded it, if Joe is not even doing a review of the game, that's bad. That is really fucking bad.
Pointing this out. And of course, to make matters worse, to rub salt in the wound, on the same day as Marathon's release, an indie studio released Slay the Spire 2 that absolutely destroyed the player count of Marathon.
Gloriously
now, what
destroyed
about the
it.
actual player count? So on day 2, this is like midday. I would suspect this is going to be around the peak for the day. Marathon is sitting at 63,000 according to SteamDB. And if you look at the chart, they peaked on day 1 at about 88,000, which is not exactly the biggest.
Again, I will point out, as I pointed out at the beginning of stream, this is not even Highguard numbers. That's how bad this is. Opening day, they didn't even do Highguard numbers. That's really fucking bad. That they could not even achieve those numbers for one day at launch.
This number in the world, it's not atrocious, it's not Concord or anything like that, obviously, but with a game that's got hundreds of millions of dollars invested into it, is this going to be enough? Especially when we see a drop-off.
Oh, and by the way, to the people saying, well, this is just Steam. This isn't consoles. We're not seeing console numbers. Marathon's actually really successful, guys, because we can't see the console numbers. All we're seeing is the Steam numbers, guys. There's console numbers, too. I'm just waiting for the fucking shills to start screeching about console numbers. It don't matter. It's low as shit. It's dipping even further. And when it recovered on a Friday, bearing in mind, this right here is on a Friday. This like 1800 UTC is Friday evening UTC. And it didn't even get up to launch day numbers. I'll check the numbers after Red's review because we've had a couple hours go by since I showed them to you. We'll look at the current numbers after Red's review and see where it's at.
Invested into it. Is this going to be enough? Especially when we see a drop off. I mean, again, we're still at 62,000, but that's still a roughly 25% decrease from day 1 to day 2. That's not exactly too promising. And again, with some estimates out there, people believe that this game needs to sell between 7 to 11 million copies just to break even. That is a lot, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody is sitting here saying that Marathon...
Okay, this game is dead. This game is dead. They need 7 to 11 million just to break even. Even if you factor in console players, you had less than 100,000 on PC through Steam. Even with console players, they're not making this. They are losing their shirt. They are not even going to break even. They will 100% lose billions of dollars on this game. And it looks fucking fantastic on them.
Marathon's not going to sell millions of copies. It's going to. It's going to sell millions. But will it sell enough to even get to its budget or to make a profit? That is the main question. We're even seeing some very bold aspirations from Bungie. According to Paul Tassi, the studio's aiming for nothing less than a top 5 spots on Circana sales chart for the year if the game is to be considered a true success.
Oh my
all I can say to that is that is a very aspirational goal, and I wish them luck. That's going to be tough sledding for them. But upon release, there was endless articles promoting this game, and also studios coming out and congratulating Bungie and promoting.
By the way, can we also just appreciate and laugh? This is their promotional imagery for Marathon. We know what these characters look like in-game. If the characters actually looks like this in the game itself, it might be okay. The characters don't even look close to this in the game. Not even close to this. They look like block figures in the game. Low poly, just sprites.
Promoting their game, including those at Naughty Dog, saying a huge congratulations to Bungie on the launch of Marathon. But of course, there was another studio that announced this launch, but it went very differently.
Here we go.
Slay the Spire 2 also launched on the same day as Marathon. This comes from the indie studio Mega Crits. And of course, like I said, they released Slay the Spire 2 same day as Marathon. And boy, would this tweet end up being one of the most unintentionally hilarious ones I've seen in a minute. Okay, so they say, congratulations to the Marathon team on their launch. Don't let small indie passion projects like this pass you by just because Slay the Spire 2 is out. Now, of course, they were trying to have a fun interaction here. This wasn't supposed
yes, it was. Hang on, I'll let him finish.
to be any sort of promises or shots or anything, but...
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This was cheeky as fuck. Okay? Rev is saying this wasn't supposed to be a shot. I'm sorry. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. This was Mega Crit literally taking shots and basically just slapping Bungie in the face with their giant cock and going, suck it, bitch. Absolutely, this was intentional. They literally just kathunked it on the table right in front of Bungie. They're just flopping around with big dick energy right now. It's oh, I fucking love it. Oh, I fucking love it.
Slay the Spire 2 absolutely crushed Marathon.
Yes.
Right now, you can compare the 60 or so thousand in-game players for Marathon versus the 227,000 in-game players for Slay the Spire 2. In fact, look at the all-time peak that occurred over the past 24 hours. 430,000 in-game players. Look at this chart. This is beautiful. This is...
Yeah. Day one. Day one, Slay the Spire 2 had over double what Marathon did. Over double on day one. Day two, over quadruple, almost quintuple. This game literally, actually, no, it did have quintuple. It did. This indie game had quintuple the player base that Marathon had at its peak. That is fucking glorious. Absolutely fucking glorious.
Success. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we saw this with Mugenics, right? Day one, good. Day two, good. But rising. It's rising as the days go on, which is a very healthy sign. That is a hit, ladies and gentlemen. I believe this went way beyond any of their craziest expectations for this game. They completely crushed Marathon. I mean, it wasn't exactly a competition, but they more than quadrupled the max counts for players in-game. I mean, that's pretty insane. In fact, it got so insane, one of the co-founders of the studio came out and said, "This seems a bit meaner than it was intended. To be fair, I didn't think we'd actually pass Marathon in concurrent users." And
you just scored a mega critical hit.
The replies to this are very funny. Mogging a greedy corporation with no soul that's wearing a beloved name as a skin suit is a good thing. This you? I thought you were stronger. Pass its complete domination. That's like half of the peak count we would see just hours later. Germany versus Brazil type situation. Exactly. In quotes, I didn't think we'd actually pass Marathon in concurrent users, end quote. 3 a.m. my time, that's domination. Now, looking at this, I mean, games journalists, how could they not deny the success of this game? Quadrupling, more than quadrupling Bungie's extraction shooter, Marathon. I mean, everyone is talking about this. And again...
And by the way, they didn't quadruple, they quintupled. Quadrupled would have been when Slay the Spire 2 got around 350,000. Slay the Spire 2 got 440 some odd thousand at peak. That is quintuple the number of concurrent players. Not quadrupled, quin-fucking-tupled.
Action shooter, Marathon. I mean, everyone is talking about this. And again, you have journalists coming out and looking at the numbers so far for Marathon and saying, yeah, it's a bit concerning. But of course, not every journalist is looking at the objective.
By the way, again, look at these graphics. Look at these guns. You guys called it when you said they were basically Lego guns. These look like Lego guns. This looks like shit. This looks like absolute shit.
Objective reality of what we know so far, we see the glazing and another kiss of death from PC game journalist Morgan Park. The meme has lived on. I don't know if this is just complete and utter incompetence, bad luck, or...
Oh God, look at the top right one. The top right one about Marathon. The marathon server slam consumed my weekend. 21 hours later, I've gone from meh to believer. All right, Bungie, I'm in. Do you want to know where some of those millions went to? There you go.
With 3 Concords failing in a row, is that a hat trick of failure? Can we call them the fail twiplets?
Yes, we can call them the failed twiplets. When marathon goes down, yes, we can call them the failed twiplets. Absolutely. Because as you may know, chat, as you may know, twiplets is a thing.
Or masterful trolling, or all of the above, who knows. But let's read some of the previous headlines from this contributor at PC Gamer. Okay? Highguard is fine when you don't have an internet in your ear telling you it's nasty. 8 hours...
What? Oh, what? Okay, look at the headline. Highguard is fine when you don't have an internet in your ear telling you it's nasty, which apparently he said before. But look at the subheadline. It's well made, but I don't see Highguard becoming a habit. So he uses the headline to say, Highguard's great! And then the subheadline, he actually kind of admits it's actually not that great.
In Suicide Squad doesn't seem like the disaster some were waiting for. Uh-oh, I played 7 hours of Concord this weekend and immediately want back in. After 5 hours of exploring the galaxy and ghosting past stormtroopers, Star Wars Outlaws is finally winning me over. I played 6 hours of Assassin's Creed Shadows, and folks, I think this one was worth the wait. And of course, they came out with the most recent one. The Marathon Server Slam consumed my weekend. 21 hours later, I've gone from meh to believer. All right, Bungie, I'm in. Yeah, this is literally a kiss of death. This is pattern.
This man has single-handedly resulted in the death of the game. Oh, everyone blame this man right here. He's the one that killed Marathon.
Recognition at this point, ladies and gentlemen. Every time this individual journalist makes some sort of I played X amount of hours of said game, and now I'm a believer or fan, whenever they make that type of a post, it is followed by a massive disappointment in terms of sales and player numbers, and then eventually the studio either shutting down or at least taking massive damage. And here we are with...
No, I mean, he obviously attended the modern day school of game journalist, where no matter that basically when a game journalist writes something about a game, you basically assume the exact opposite is fact. And so he's on par with PC Gamer, he's on par with IGN, he's on par with Game Informer. He's kind of on par with all the game journalists. Whatever they write, it's the exact opposite. That's the truth.
Marathon as the latest example, and yeah, not great, ladies and gentlemen. What's also not great is this right here. It looks like Bungie has come out and addressed the embargo and gameplay guidelines for reviewers, especially in the media, asking critics and reviewers to hold off on publishing full Marathon reviews until later in March. Interesting. That's when the...
Yeah, we want to run an update patch. What do you think to quote our favorite Fleeky Boy, it'll be good at the end of March. You have to give it to the end of March. No, that's what the development time was for. You had how many years to cook this game? And you brought it out raw? It's fucking raw. How many years have... off the top of my head, I can't think of how many years Bungie was working on this game. Wasn't it something like 3 fucking years? 3-4 years that they've been working on Marathon? And they still can't complete like put out a completed game, or at least they claim it's not a completed game, that they have to throw in an update patch to fix things at the a month after release. So not only is their game dog shit, which no patch, is going to fix and be synced. Thank you for the tier 1. So not only did they throw out a shit game that no patch is going to fix, now they're basically admitting that they released an unfinished game. When the Cryo Archive, the game's endgame zone, becomes available, they literally released, they're admitting that they released an unfinished game after, you're saying 6 years? Okay, after 6 years of development, the game is not even finished. What the fuck were you doing with all that development time? What the fuck were you doing all those years while you were developing? And you finish and you release a shit product that's not even a finished game. That you've withheld the end game content and saying, oh, we're gonna run a patch a month after release to give you the quote unquote end of the game. What the fuck is this pappy or shit right now?
The game's endgame zone becomes available. So they're basically saying, hold on until the game gets good. Now, Paul Tassi, games journalist who's been making a lot of sense with his coverage of Marathon, goes on to say, they're absolutely doing this to avoid another Destiny situation where had a bunch of scored reviews in before Vault of Glass, its best piece of content, actually dropped.
What? I'm sorry. So Paul Tassi is trying to say they're trying to avoid a Destiny situation where it got reviewed on the game before Bungie could release the completed content that they should have been working on already. This makes no fucking sense. This does not make any goddamn sense to me. This guy is saying that it's perfectly fine that Bungie puts out uncompleted games. And by the way, like doing score reviews before Vault of Glass wasn't Vault. I'm trying to remember. I'm not totally up on I've played Destiny 2, but I'm not fully up on all of the DLC. Destiny 2 was Vault of Glass was essentially a DLC for Destiny 2, was it not? Was Vault of Glass a raid for Destiny 2? Somebody help me out here. Like, is he saying like there was a Destiny 2 drop? They didn't put in the Vault of Glass raid yet, and so they put out an unfinished. It was a D1 raid. Okay, so it was a D1 raid. So they put out the game. They had a raid that hadn't been patched into the game yet. There were reviews on it. And there were bad reviews, and Paul Tassi saying, well, they hadn't finished yet. They hadn't finished it. They hadn't put in their best piece of content yet. So Paul Tassi is saying, don't judge the game as a whole. So Paul Tassi is telling people that Marathon should not be judged on a whole upon its release. No. Marathon, you should wait to judge it until it does an update patch a month after launch to include content that they were too stupid or too lazy to put in at launch. Bearing in mind, players have paid, what, $60 for this game? So this creature is saying, well, ignore the fact that you've paid $60 or $40, however much money. Forget the fact that you've paid money for a game that you expected to be a completed game. So Bungie already has your money. So ignore the fact that you have paid money and received an incomplete game, and don't judge it until Bungie does a content drop a month after launch, after you have paid your money already for this game. You should wait a month after you've paid for it for the game to quote unquote get good. Am I understanding this retarded logic correctly? He's literally doing wimpy logic. Potassi is literally doing wimpy logic. If you give me money today, I'll happily give you actual content on Tuesday. What is this stupidity? This is why AAA studios are failing. This is exactly why they're failing, because so many of them are doing this. Bungie is not in a vacuum on this one about releasing an unfinished game and saying, oh, just give us a month and we'll give you like the actual good content of the game, but ignore the fact that you've already paid money for what you expect to be a completed game and you actually received an incompleted game. Just ignore that little fact and trust me, bro, the game will get good in like 30 days after we release content that we couldn't be asked to put into the game in the first fucking place. This is why they fail. And I'm right here fucking laughing about it.
But as they say, this is not a demand or embargo mandate. That is correct. It is a heavy suggestion. Let's just...
Yeah, because if they tried to demand or do an embargo update, chances are the game journalists would probably say, fuck you, we're not waiting 30... Even game journos would probably tell Bungie to fuck right off, having to wait a fucking month before they can even do a review of it. Again, most times you hear about a review embargo, it's maybe 24 or 48 hours after launch. That's probably, I think, the longest review embargo I personally have ever heard of happening. If they had done a review embargo of a month, the journalists would say, "Fuck that! We're not waiting a month we're not going to wait a month to review this game after it launches, because by that time, all of the YouTube reviewers will have basically done the review, and the game journals would have been utterly fucking scooped by the YouTubers. Granted, the YouTubers are scooping the fuck out of game journals now. Anyway, people watch YouTuber game reviewers far more than they read game journalists. So YouTuber game reviewers already have about 5 legs up on the game journals. If they actually did a 30-day delay, they would get no readers. If they actually followed this, like, wait 30 days to do a full review of the game, nobody would bother clicking on their articles. They would get no clicks, and therefore they would get no ad revenue. So this is just fucking stupid to even suggest this. And it shows that they know the game is dead. Bungie knows this game is dead already.
Say, and if you're one of these platforms, one of these sets of games journalists, and you need benefits and a good relationship with Bungie, you want benefits like early access, for example, are you going to defy this request and make them angry at you?
Here's the funny part. Journalistic access to these games doesn't mean shit anymore. That's the funny part. All of this lauded access that the game journalists want to maintain with the game companies, and that's why they shill like them for shill like crazy for them, it doesn't mean anything anymore. Getting like an inside scoop on these games means fucking nothing. Nobody cares. And by the way, what's so hilarious is even if these game journals didn't shill for these game devs, they'd still get the access. That's the hilarious part. If they did not shill to these companies, they would still retain their access to them. Why? Because talking to game developers while a game is being developed is how a studio generates interest in the game in the first place. It's not for the benefit of the game journals, it's for the benefit of the studios. That's the hilarious part. Like these idiot journalists that think I have to shill for these companies to retain their access. No, the game development studios need the journalists more than the journalists actually need the studios, which is the insane part. Because if the studios like keep everything tight-lipped and don't talk to the game journalists while the game is being developed, there will be no generative hype for the game in the first fucking place. And the game studios need generated hype so that when the game launches, people A, know about it, and B, people fucking buy it. So this is where the retardation comes into play from both sides. Game journals think that they need to shill to retain the access, when in reality, the studios are the ones that are desperate to provide that access to gin up interest. It's so hilariously stupid. Now, who knows? Maybe the game devs are actually paying the journalists for their access, and maybe that's why they want to retain this access, because the studios actually pay them to write really wonderful articles about them, and so the game journals that shill for them will actually get paid. Will actually get that little honeypot of getting paid to go behind the scenes to write for it, to write something nice about them. That's certainly entirely a possibility, but the reality is the devs need the journos more than the journos need the devs in order for the game to be successful.
I don't really know, ladies and gentlemen. It might be against their own interests, so that's why people might feel like this is a little bit less of an ask and more of a heavy suggestion. But of course, with the marathon
oh my
roadmap,
God, even their roadmap looks ugly as fuck. Oh my God. Look at this roadmap. Look at the graphics they decided to do for this roadmap. Even this looks ugly as shit. Oh my God. This looks horrible. Even their roadmap advertisements look horrible. This is why you fail, Bungie. You make ugly shit. The colors are terrible. The colors are literally an eyesore. My eyes hurt just looking at this. And look at the text. Look, they're stuck on using this MS-DOS text that looks terrible. It doesn't look retro. It just looks flat out terrible.
why are they making people wait? Well, in late March, they have a lot of content coming out and a major updates at the beginning of April. So I guess they are trying to wait this out. They're basically saying, no, don't review the game quite yet. It gets good in a month or two.
Yep.
That's not a very winning strategy, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not really convinced that's exactly what gamers want to hear. That's not very promising. And Endymion points out here, this is a terrible look. This is like asking movie reviewers not to review a movie until the extended cut is out.
Exactly.
Marathon should be reviewed based on what's available at launch in its initial release, not what comes later. Even if Bungie isn't saying flat out it's mandatory, knowing games journalists, they'll likely wait off so they don't get alienated by their peers. Very disappointing to see, and
Well, any game journalist that does wait off for whatever stupid reason they have, they're gonna get completely scooped by YouTube reviewers. For those that actually decide on actually going to review the game and not return it after 2 hours of playtime. The YouTube reviewers are going to completely obliterate the quote unquote actual games journalists in reviewing the game. By the time, if any games journalist that waits, no one's going to give a shit what they have to say. Their article will remain unclicked on, and therefore the magazine will not receive any ad revenue, and therefore Who knows? The magazine might say, okay, your services are no longer needed because nobody read your article. Like, it's almost career suicide to wait a month before doing this review because you're getting scooped by actual gamers reviewing this game on YouTube.
Entirely agree with this take right here. And also,
No, Endymion is not saying it. No, because look, okay, hang on. We're at 11:26. Look what Paul Tassi said. They're actually trying to do another Destiny situation. We're at a bunch of scored reviews before, but as they say, it's not a demand. Yeah, he's comparing it like he doesn't want like Destiny, so he doesn't want the review. He's being a lot more gentle with what he's saying, whereas Endymion is basically saying this is bullshit. Endymion's flat out saying this is bullshit.
And I entirely agree with this take right here. And also, people are pointing out some other interesting things going on. Pointing out here, I'm sure Bungie is not buying reviews for Marathon at all. So people are skeptical about the reviews on Steam
interesting.
for Marathon. And I think there's something interesting to observe here.
Yeah.
As of today, and when this tweet was posted, with Marathon, the peak was 88k players, but there's 5.1k reviews. With Slay the Spire 2, who had a peak of 430,000 players.
Yeah.
Well over 4 times Marathon's player count, but they have less reviews.
So, and I don't know if Rev is going to bring this up. Do developers still have the option to delete reviews from their Steam storefront? Is that still an option available to game developers that launch on Steam? Can they actually go into their storefront and actually delete reviews? Because I legit could see if they have that option available to them. Because notice it's saying Marathon is very positive, which they can't. Okay, I thought that they could, because I know Steam's not doing it. I was going to say, because I would not be surprised if they can mark it as sus. If they mark it as sus, would that show up here about like how it would categorize it? But it's visual when they do that. Okay, so it probably wouldn't affect this. Yeah, it's the fact that it's saying it's very positive, considering how many big gamers have said, fuck this shit, I'm out. Yeah, this is probably paid. These reviews are very likely to be paid.
Now, of course, I understand that Marathon is a controversial game. It's got a lot of hype and a lot of attention on it, and whether it does good or bad, people are more inclined to talk about it than the average game that just dropped on Steam. But the number of reviews versus the number of players actually engaging, when you compare it to other games, like, for example, Slay the Spire 2, it seems a bit off. And I understand why people would be a bit skeptical of what's actually going on here. But of course, it wasn't just games journalists and others who were trying to do something with this mess. There was a lot of copium going on
here we go.
with people defending this game on social media, referring to the fact that users are pointing out that hundreds of millions of dollars were spent on Marathon just to be mogged by Slay the Spire 2 and Resident Evil. And they reply by...
Wait, not only Resident Evil, it's Slay the Spire 2, Bongo Cats, Resident Evil, and even Rainbow Six. Rainbow Six is doing better than Marathon. And how old is Rainbow Six right now? Isn't Rainbow Six like, 7, 8 years old right now? How old is Rainbow? It's like, it's got to be like 7, 8 years old by now, right? Like, even Rainbow Six, an old arena, essentially arena 8 years old. Okay, like almost a decade. So Rainbow Six has been out for almost a decade. And it's kind of, sort of a similar game to Marathon. It's not an extraction shooter. It's more of an arena shooter. But Rainbow Six, a nearly 10-year-old game, it's just Siege, just Siege I'm talking about here, is doing better than Marathon opening weekend. That right there exemplifies how shit the game is.
Saying, are y'all okay? The Steam reviews are very positive, so it's obvious the people that are actually playing it are enjoying it. It literally has a fire icon next to it, but let's compare a new IP to an established IP. Shaking my head, anything for engagement, I guess. Well, first of all, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure the little fire icon that you're seeing right here, I'm pretty sure they give that to a game that just hit its all-time peak player count. So if you're taking the screenshot of a game on day one, it's certainly going to have its peak count at the time. And that
Yeah, he's right about that. And also, who gives a fuck about the fire icon? The fire icon means nothing. You know what counts? Sales and player counts. That's what counts. And the chart says that Marathon has less of a high player count than Slay the Spire 2, Bongo Cat, Resident Evil Requiem, and Rainbow Six Siege. This is what counts. This is what counts. This doesn't fucking matter. Nobody cares. Absolutely no one takes a look at a game, sees the fire icon next to it, and goes, wow, this must be a fan-fucking-tastic game. Not one person does that. My guess is the majority of people that get games on Steam don't even fucking know what this means. They just go, oh, it's got an icon next to it. I have no idea what that was. Anyway, let's see if I want to buy this game or not.
That only makes sense, right? But overall, people are responding by saying, nah, we're not going to sit here and pretend that an indie game outperforming a huge AAA game is not a big deal.
Hell yes.
And I agree. I think it's a very big deal. I don't understand why anybody would look at this absolute domination from Slay the Spire 2 versus Marathon and think this is not something worthy of any serious attention.
I was today years old when I discovered games have a fire next to them.
Yeah, like I didn't even know that was a thing either. The little fire icon. I was not even aware that was a thing.
I think this is not something worthy of any serious attention. I think it's a very big deal, and it's very telling about the state of AAA games right now. And of course, we're seeing some copium from this time Shroud, when asked if this game is dying in a month or two, and this is what he had to say.
Is this game dying in a month or two or not? Definitely not. There's literally, that's not going to happen. They've invested.
Okay, we're now actually seeing gameplay footage. Hang on. We're actually seeing, okay, I'm going to play it for to hear what he has to say, and then I want to back it up again.
Is this game dying in a month or two or not? Definitely not. There's literally, that's not going to happen. They've invested too much money, right? It's not like a Highguard situation where it's like a new, like Highguard and Concord. What makes them a little different is like those are new studios that were made with like, you know, funding from investors, and that's it. Like, you know, they get their $30 million to make a game and they shoot their shot. But a game like this, it's Bungie, bro. They fucking are backed by Sony. They have billions of dollars. What are we doing? To say it'll just die in 2 months, like even if they had 5 players, I don't think they would pull it. I really don't think they would pull it.
Yeah, and he may, you know what, Shroud may actually be right about that. That even if it drops down to a death knell player base, yeah, they might not pull it within 2 months, but it will be like a Suicide Squad situation. Was Concord backed by Sony? I don't recall. I thought Concord, I don't remember. Was Concord backed by Sony? Okay, so there you go. There you go. Concord was backed by Sony, and they pulled it after a month. They pulled it in less than a month. So, literally everything he said is wrong. Literally everything Shroud said is wrong. it doesn't matter who they're backed by. If they are losing money hand over fist, they will pull the servers because it's not worth spending the money to keep the servers up for 200 players when they've already lost millions on it. Even if it's backed by Bungie, even if it's backed by Sony, it don't fucking matter because that's how corporations work. It's called cutting their losses. It's called okay, we have next to no players. We are actually actively losing money maintaining this game after 1 month. Even a big company like Sony will pull the fucking plug if they've already spent like millions of dollars on it. And after a month or two after launch, if the game is causing them to continue to lose money, yes, even if it's backed by a major game corporation, they will pull the fucking plug because they're not going to want to have a loss leader happening. And yes, it will get yanked. We've seen it before with plenty of other games. So Shroud is full of shit. I know you're shocked, but why do you think he's shilling for Marathon? Who's anybody remember who Shroud's buddy with? Where he's talking about they're not gonna pull it. No, they're not gonna pull it. They're not. Anybody remember who Shroud is buddy with? No, not Pirate. Shroud is buddy with Peanut. Shroud is buddies with Peanut. Yeah. Shroud is the one that convinced Peanut, and this is like completely sideways, but it basically shows how close they are together. Shroud is the one that convinced Peanut to try and push to win the VTuber slot at the Streamer Awards. Peanut and Shroud are pretty close. They basically, they collab, from what I understand, they collab quite a bit. And, there's already the strong suspicion that Peanut is being paid by Bungie to shill the game. What do you think the chances are that Shroud might be getting paid to shill Marathon too, given everything he just said? What are the odds that maybe Bungie is sponsoring him at launch to shill this game? Because look at the graphics here. We are actually seeing the first in-game graphics here. Look at this. Just look at this. This still shot right here says it all. Look at this shit. This looks horrible. This looks like something a first-year graphic arts student would put together. Like legitimately, like someone who is like going to school for game development, this looks like what a first-year game development student would put together for a game. This looks terrible. It looks plain and ugly and completely uninspired. It just looks like shit. And they're like, oh yeah, this game is going to be great. Shroud's going, yeah, the game's going to be fine. Oh yeah, the game's going to be just fine. They're not going to shut it down. No worries. Yeah, let's see about that. Yeah, I mean, this looks like, this looks pre-alpha. This actually looks like it's pre-alpha. This looks like the pre-alpha game test they put together to test the mechanics of the game to see if the game mechanics actually function before they actually render skins on the settings, on the weapons, on the models. It's like a pre-alpha test, mechanics test is what this looks like. It's so fucking bad. And Captain Kazzle, thank you for the prime. Like, look at this knife! Get this knife! Look, oh my god, look right here. It looks like the knife is clipping into the fingers. Look at that. It looks like the knife is actually, look at the finger. Now, maybe that's just coloring or something. Like, this looks like shit. This looks like absolute dog shit.
5 players. I don't think they would pull it. I really don't think they would pull it. It's just the sunk cost fallacy, right? You're just too invested at this point. You're not going to pull it.
Look at the look at the distance. Look at like the backgrounds. The background. Look, this looks even more pixelated. This looks like the game engine is destabilizing. Right here. It looks like it's not properly rendering. Holy crap, this is bad.
Gonna pull it.
So yeah, hearing his comments, you just got to go to the replies on this to get the answers. Like people immediately pointing out, Concord was also backed by Sony. How did that work out? This user saying he also thought Arc Raiders was Game of the Year, and then 3 months later, he thinks the game is dead. Shroud's opinion is as reliable as a weather forecast. This user saying, but Highguard was backed by Tencent, who has more money than Sony. This argument doesn't work. Concord was also backed by Sony. It's Bungie, bro. They're backed by Sony. They have billions of dollars. And of course, there is the bad news. But there's a big comparison being made. I think it's inevitable given the timing and the type of games we're talking about here. People are bringing up Highguard. Now, to make this very clear, we're dealing with Highguard, free-to-play versus Bungie's Marathon, which is $40. Okay, it's not a direct comparison, but look at the state of Highguard that only released 6 weeks ago, 5-6 weeks ago.
Yep.
It's sitting at 290 in-game players. Again, free to play.
And it's done next week.
290 people. That's it.
290 people, and it shuts down less than a week from today. March 12th, the game is done. And the hilarious part is when they announced the shutdown, to Highguard, simultaneously they announced, oh, we're also introducing a skill tree and new weapons, like 9 days before the game is literally dead, shut down. You will not be able to play it anymore. They're like, oh yeah, we're also adding in this content. Enjoy it for the next 9 days, and then you won't be able to ever play it again. And yeah, Tencent basically took back their money. They said, give me that shit, you dumb cunts.
That's all they could amass right now. And looking at the chart, I mean, this is probably the most brutal chart I think I've seen in quite some time, because similar to the day one numbers of Marathon, they got 97,000. Again, free to play, but still a lot of hype between both of these games.
Yes.
But look how Highguard ended up. Completely flatlining, losing a substantial portion of its audience from day one to day two, which we're seeing a pretty substantial amount with Marathon as well. Not quite this dramatic, but still losing about 25%. It's a pretty big deal from day one to day two. But the flatline is absolutely brutal. I mean, now just averaging hundreds of players. And despite games journalists trying their best, saying Highguard didn't flop, I cannot believe the audacity of this statement. They got hit with a note saying the developers of Highguard laid off most of their team, around 90% estimated, just 16 days after release. This makes it a flop. Brutal note.
Yes, it does.
But yeah.
And also the fact that, well, granted, that tweet came out before the announcement, but the fact that it's literally shutting down like slightly over a month after release, that'd be a flop. That'd be a flop, and I will not be surprised to hear that the entire studio is shut down. That studio is going to be shuttered. They need to learn how to put the fries in the bag.
Not too unexpected. Highguard on their official Twitter account came out and said, Highguard's final update arriving soon. Thank you for playing with us. Today we're sharing difficult news. We have made the decision to permanently shut down Highguard on March 12th. Now they beat out Concord by a few weeks, but yeah, this game lasted, or is going to last, about 6 or 7 weeks. Absolutely brutal, especially for a free-to-play game. They had absolutely no faith in this. Tencent saw this and said, we're out.
Fuck this
Later,
shit, we're
buddy. We are not standing with this. This is an absolute disaster. And Jeff Keely was one of the people to announce that Highguard would be going offline, and Unfortunately, Jeff Keely, he backed the wrong horse in this race here. He really got behind Highguard. It was the big trailer premiere at the Game Awards, and it got immediate bad reception. I mean, horrendous reception. And when the game was released, he said this, saying, in 48 hours, I'll be accepting your apologies. Oh, boy.
That aged well.
As pointed out in these memes, guys, I'm worried about him with a meme of him saying the Game Awards are canceled. Nothing even matters now. Blacking out his profile picture. And this getting 89,000 likes. But you know what? I'll say this. Poorly aged things. That account said, I'm sorry, Jeff. And he would, in good fun, respond by acknowledging that this was.
You know what? Credit to him. Credit to him. He took his licks, and he's giving a very good-natured response to it. You know what? I will give credit. I will give him full credit for rolling with it and going, yep, I fucked up. Absolutely.
A colossal failure, and this happens again despite every excuse being made by games journalists saying,
oh, here we go,
is yet another symptom and victim of a rapidly decaying internet. I've never
actually, Screaming Banshee, I've got a better quote for you. Now that is one big pile of shit. That's a better Jeff Goldblum quote from that movie in regard to this.
Victim of a rapidly decaying internet. I've never heard that one before.
Well, yeah, it's like nowadays it's always rapidly decaying internet. They're being brigaded. They're review bombing. It's all the same excuses. That's why no one That's why no one buys it anymore. That's why no one cares anymore. Because literally every single game that is dog shit that has come out that fails is always the same fucking excuses. It's the rapidly decaying internet. It's the toxic chuds. It's, it's review bombing. It's, bot brigading. It's always the same shit excuses, except for this was a bad game. And gamers didn't like it. This was a game that the devs made and marketed to an audience that's not going to buy their game in the first place. They never say that. Not one. Not one of these game journalists will ever say they made a game and they marketed that game to an audience who does not even play games. And that is why you fail. Another Spielberg there for you.
An excuse for a game failing. A rapidly decaying internet. That rapidly decaying internet.
Thank you, Drew. I know everybody was telling me what Leaflet said. She's so very sweet to say that.
It doesn't seem to be affecting Slay the Spire 2 very much, but interesting try. And then
okay. Sorry, I'm pausing a lot, but I have to defend myself here. Yes, it was George Lucas, but it was also Spielberg. It was Spielberg and Lucas. It was the two of them. Okay? I kind of like, Lucas, it was Lucas's baby, but Spielberg was with him on it, and then Spielberg did Jurassic, so I'm kind of right. I'm kind of right.
Be affecting Slay the Spire 2 very much, but interesting try. And then we've heard a lot of excuses from the Highguard directors, and man,
here we go.
They made things a lot worse, trying to cope literally from the moment this game dropped.
Wait. So the Highguard director is admitting that they also released an unfinished game. I don't think I saw this one. This one I think I missed. Let's see. It's just baffling to me they released the game in such a skeleton state and decided now is the time to add account levels and introduce some sort of skill tree system. It's crazy to see the parallels between this game failing and seeing Marathon come back after so many tests. And the director said, when you're out of time and money, you have to release a game with the runway you have available and hope players will stick with you post-launch. So they knew that they were releasing an unfinished game after how many years of development again? What were you doing for all those years of development? So, just like Highguard, Bungie says, we're going to release an unfinished game, stick around for a month, and we're sure to add in something great for you guys. That'll actually make the game fun. This is what happens when you release an unfinished game. Gamers are not kind anymore. Once upon a time, they might have been a little bit forgiving if they saw the heart and the passion that you put into the project. And they put something out, maybe it wasn't quite finished, they had to patch it up, but what they did put out was fun, it was enjoyable, and you could feel the passion that they put into it. There's no joy, there's no passion in any of these games. None. No Man's Sky is a little bit different. No Man's Sky, unfortunately, is a little bit different than what I'm talking about. A little bit. It's with No Man's Sky, it wasn't. No Man's Sky was not. I don't think No Man's Sky was quote unquote unfinished. That's the thing. I don't believe No Man's Sky would be considered unfinished. I think No Man's Sky just didn't have as much content as they promised for whatever reason, and it was a big disappointment. But then what was it? Hello Games, I think. What they did is after they released it and they saw how poorly it was received, it was wildly overhyped. And it didn't deliver what it could promise, what the hype promised. However, what they did is when that happened, they put their head down and they worked their fucking ass off and they completely 180'd it. That was a Cinderella story of doing a complete 180. They said, and they didn't make excuses. They said, you know what? We fucked up. Give us a sec. They put their heads down. They worked like fucking crazy, and they completely turned the game around. Honestly, same thing with Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is kind of the same. Now, it's not in the same vein, but Cyberpunk launched with a lot of problems. It was a completed game, but there were issues. There were problems that people had with it. What did CD Projekt Red do? They put their head down. They not only fixed the game, they added an entire story. They added a huge amount of DLC, and they also continued to improve it, and it made it, an even more fantastic game than it started with. Now, unlike a lot of people, when I played Cyberpunk when it first launched, I did not run into these game-breaking bugs that people talked about. Like, for me, Cyberpunk, when it first launched, actually ran quite smoothly. But a lot of people had those bug issues, and CD Projekt Red, they put their heads down, they fixed it, and they included a mammoth-sized DLC story in Phantom Liberty. So, like, Cyberpunk and No Man's Sky are the exception versus the rule. And you have many of these big AAA studios now that are literally tossing out unfinished games and telling players, just play it for a while, don't worry, we'll get it patched up. It has become almost an industry acceptable standard that to please the shareholders, get the game out even if it's unfinished. And that's why we're seeing games fail, because it has become acceptable to release unfinished games. Yes. Yeah, Cyberpunk was complete from the get-go. It was just extremely buggy. And so was No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky was finished. It was just overhyped and didn't deliver on hype. They were both finished games, and the developers worked like hell and sixth improved them. Highguard and Marathon are legitimately unfinished games. And that's the problem. And it was acceptable for them to release unfinished games. And that's why they flopped. That's why they die. That's why the studios shut down.
And a Highguard director confirmed the game released without content as they were running out of time and money. Yeah, they're basically saying we were underfunded. I mean, come on. Seriously, that's the best you got? That you didn't have enough of a budget? I'm sure you had enough of a budget to make an enjoyable experience. This was an absolute disaster of a game. Highguard is definitely Concord 2. If you want to have that little...
Yeah.
Where is it here? Let me pull it up. This little image right here. Yeah, these were abject failures. Will Concord 3, as some say, Bungie's Marathon, have a similar fate? Well, we don't know yet.
Up.
It's going to take some time. But looking at things very generally right now, I don't really know. It's really on the fence, but things don't look great. The requests that reviewers hold off on things till it gets better, and the fact that we saw a pretty big drop from day 1 to day 2, and there's a lot of copium going around, and even some games journalists recognizing things aren't that great. It's not a good sign, at the very least, for a game that's going to have to sell probably somewhere between 7 to 11 million copies just to break even. But anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.
All right, let's take a look at where it's currently sitting. Let me pull up the charts really quick. We'll cap off this section with the charts. All right, let's see. Marathon, SteamDB, currently sitting at a whopping 74,000 players. So it did tick up a little bit. It was at 68, so it did tick up by a grand total of 6,000 players on a Friday night. On a Friday night, day after launch. It's currently at 74,000 players in day 2. Now, again, Slay the Spire 2, currently sitting at, it's going up. It's at almost 300,000 players. In the last hour, it's gone up by about 30,000 players. Again, went up by, in the last 2 hours, Marathon went up by about 6,000 players. In the last 2 hours, Slay the Spire actually has gone up 70,000 players in the last 2 hours. It went up by 70,000 players in 2 hours. 6,000, 70,000. I'm not going to make a prediction yet. I'm going to let this cook over the weekend. But come Monday, I'm going to take a look at the charts again. And I'll see if I have enough data to make a prediction. Because I was right about Highguard. We'll see if I can make a prediction and be right about Marathon. Nope, not on Sunday. I want to give it the full weekend. I want to give Marathon the full weekend before I look at the chart. It's only fair after all.